Hey, help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button to subscribe if you want more Cavs-focused content.
All right, so the Cavs lost to the Boston Celtics today. There were some good things I thought they showed in this game, and then obviously some things that you want to be improved. I walked away from this saying, hey, to myself, Cavs are about 50 games into the season. They're 40-10. They're clearly a good team. The conversation about if this team's good, not really a worthy one to have anymore because this team is clearly good. But if you want to ask the question, what can this team do to beat a team like Boston in a 7-game series? Well, I have some things that I think they need to improve. Number one, they need to get more out of Evan Mobley in these matchups, right? If the Cavs want to win these games versus Boston, Evan Mobley's got to give you more than what he gave you. 7 points, five rebounds, and 2 assists. Just an abysmal night from Evan. So Evan's got to get to a point to where he can be consistent. When the Cavs beat the Celtics, he only gave you, 7 points? No, it's in the fourth quarter, my bad. So the game the Cavs beat the Celtics, Evan gave you 9 and 10 rebounds, right? So even when you've beaten them, Evan hasn't really been the most productive player on the team against Boston. This is a real problem for Evan, right? He's got to figure out how to be more productive because we cannot live with Evan being unproductive versus Boston in a playoff series. That's going to kill us, right? He was able to get 22 and 11 in that first game. I believe that was the game that Kristaps Porzingis did not play in. Let me double check that. Yeah, Kristaps wasn't playing in that first game. He went off for 22. The second game, Kristaps did play. Evan only got single digits, right? So Evan's got to figure out, right? And it's nice to see that he's figured out how to go against some of these smaller guys and the guys the same size. He's got to figure out how to provide that same level of offensive firepower against somebody the size of Kristaps. It's not an easy task. That's why Kristaps is who Kristaps is. But you need to get more out of Evan, especially on nights where Kristaps Porzingis is going to be on the floor. That was a big problem. The other big problem for the Cavs in this game, and this has been a problem for the Cavs versus the Celtics, period. The Celtics do a really good job of being able to draw the Cavs big away from the hoop when the Cavs have a one big lineup out there. And because Boston's bigs, they can all space. And because Boston's two bigs are going to play out there, Sam Hauser and Al Horford can space, right? Both over 35% three-point shooters. That has caused a problem for the Cavs because essentially what happens is that Boston's bigs draw the Cavs away from the Cavs one big off the hoop. And because the Cavs only have one true big, they have nobody there to rebound. And rebounding has become important to the Boston Celtics strategy against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Point blank period. You need to get an extra big or somebody other than George Niang you can put out there in the series against Boston because the rebounding's killing us versus them. If you don't believe me, in the second quarter of the first game, when Boston won that quarter 39-28, so minus 11 for the Cavs, they out-rebounded the Cavs 9-6. When the Cavs out-rebounded the Boston Celtics later in that same game, game one, 11-8, that led to a 40-28 quarter for the Cavs, which was plus 12. So game one, Cavs get out-rebounded. They drop 11 points in point diff. Cavs out-rebound the Celtics. They drop 12, well, they go up 12 points in point differential. Let's go to the second game that they played, right? Boston in the third quarter of that game out-rebounded the Cavs 12-6, and that led to a 35-21 quarter for the Cavs, so minus 14 in that quarter in point differential for the Cavs. In the fourth quarter of game two, which Cavs won, the Cavs out-rebounded in the fourth quarter the Celtics 11-8, led to a 43-27 quarter for the Cavs. That's plus 16. Cavs won that game. They need to get better at the rebounding. Here's another example. This is from this game, the one that happened tonight. in this section between the first and second quarter, so from about 4:12 in the first quarter to about 10:56, where the Celtics went on a 28-9 run. So we're talking about a plus 19 point diff run here. The Celtics out rebounded the Cavs in that time span 10-3. Your inability to rebound is making it so Boston can build up these big leads against you. Every game the Cavs have played the Boston Celtics, they've been able to build up a big lead, and that big lead has been done in large part by being able to out-rebound the Cavaliers for spurts within a game. Usually the spurts in a game where George Niang is out there as the other big and it's Evan Mobley as the center. You need to get somebody else out there who can occasionally play the four and be a better rebounder than George Niang. I know people were rejecting the Kevin Love thing when I brought it up a week ago, but this is why I think they should bring in Kevin Love, because Kevin Love can rebound, right? And if you want to point to the one thing that this core has struggled to do in the playoffs that has cost them games in the playoffs, and the reason for the Cavs' reputation in the playoffs, it's been rebounding. Like, I don't know why this issue gets undersold. The Cavs have a rebounding issue with this core. They don't have bigs. They love to run these bigs up to the perimeter because they don't have wings. When you do that, you lose the rebound advantage. You need to have more bodies back there that you could throw at the problem. Kevin Love is a body that you could throw at the problem. Remember thinking this after the New York series. Remember thinking this after the Boston series last year. And 3 games into the season against Boston, I'm thinking that this is a thing that they need to address. The rebounding thing is real. They need to figure out an answer to this, right? Maybe Kevin Love's the answer. Maybe getting a wing is an answer. Maybe getting DeAndre Hunter is the answer. Maybe getting maybe getting somebody is an answer here, but they need to have somebody who can rebound as an option, right? You can get the wing. No, we talked about the wing. Obviously, the Cavs need a wing. They also need a big to get rebounds off the bench because, again, when you look at these crazy stretches that take the Cavs out of games that have to spend the whole quarter building themselves back into, especially against Boston this year. But, I mean, you could go ahead, look at it against OKC, that second game against OKC. The same exact thing happened. It's when the Cavs get beat, pummeled in the rebounding margin for a significant amount of time. That's what creates these runs. The Cavs play good initial defense. But if they can't get the rebound, that good initial defense, especially when they're in that zone, it breaks down quickly. They need to get rebounds at a much higher clip more consistently than they do, because you can look at the overall numbers and think, oh, man, they're not bad. But these stretches, right, where these teams go out to these leads, the Cavs have to battle back in. And because the Cavs are a really good basketball team, they do a really good job of masking this overall issue because they're able to come back in these games and have stretches where they do win in the rebound margin. It doesn't end up looking like a big issue when you look at the overall box score, but you look at that quarter box score, you look for some of these stretches, problems right there. It's smacking you in the face. Got to do something about that if you want this team to be a playoff contender, because it's bit them in the ass every other year they've been in the playoffs. They need to have something there, right? George Niang cannot be our backup 4 in the playoffs or our only backup 4, especially against a team like Boston. Especially if you're hoping to beat Oklahoma City, if you make it to the championship game, and even against New York, this is going to be a problem, right? It was a problem when you played New York the first time, so got to figure that out. It's not just Evan Mobley needs to do more push-ups or Jared Allen needs to do more push-ups. Jared Allen was rebounding his ass off in this game. Let me look at what Evan had in this game rebound-wise, because I might have to scold him for that. My man had 5 rebounds, so he didn't rebound well at all. Okay. But Jared had 18 rebounds in this game. The Cavs are capable of rebounding. The issue is that they're not capable of rebounding when Jared Allen's out there. Jared Allen's going to be able to rebound. The issue is that when Evan's out there, it's Evan and it's George Niang that have to get the rebounds. And George Niang had 2 rebounds in this game. So think about that. A large portion of this game, you had a combined of front court that got you what? 7 rebounds the whole game. Think about this. Donovan Mitchell had to out-rebound Evan Mobley and George Niang. Our small guard had to out-rebound our bigs. This is a real problem. Okay. Evans got to do a better job of rebounding, of course. That would solve a lot of the problems. But Evans going to get pulled to the perimeter a lot because he's such a special defender. He's going to get pulled to the perimeter a lot. That's just going to happen. Jared Allen's not going to get pulled to the perimeter a lot, so you don't have the same issue. But when Evans out there, part of what makes these lineups last with Evans that he can get pulled to the perimeter to be fine defensively. But you need to have somebody. If you're going to have a small 4 out there, he has to be able to rebound better than George Niang. Just has to against Boston. Because that was a real killer for you today. You don't give yourself a chance to win this basketball game when you allow Boston to go on a 21-9 stretch, largely because you're getting out-rebound 10-3. You just don't give yourself a chance to win. And again, this is a really good basketball team. This is a 40-10 basketball team. We're not talking about stuff that's going to keep them out the playoffs or keep them out the 1 seed. This team's going to be the 1 seed. This team's going to be a playoff team. They're going to have home court. We're talking about what can get this team to the NBA Finals. So, yeah, I'm not usually, you might not be used to me being critical about this team, but this has to change. It absolutely has to change because you're going to waste the potential that you have to do something special this year because you can't rebound when George Niang's on the floor. Like, got to figure something else out. Maybe you want to go out and get Kevin Love, but if you got better suggestions to solve that problem, please put them in the comment section down below. I'm open. But you got to have an answer for that because that's a big problem. Another issue for the Cavs, I hope I'm wrong about this, but, man, I hate our inbounds plays, and I do not love our end-of-quarter plays. I've noticed that with Kenny. Like, the inbound plays, too many of them result in turnovers. And maybe I'm tripping. Maybe this is just like sample size bias on my end. So please allow me to back this up with data once I get the chance to do it. But just the first glance of watching this team off the top of the head, it feels like that's an issue, right? I just remember the game against Houston. This one, we don't have great inbounds plays, or at least we have these moments where our inbound plays. I think that's fair. We have these moments where our inbound plays look wonky. And our end of quarter stuff, I don't love it. Cavs had multiple opportunities to get some buckets at the end of quarters here. And we got bad shots both times. And that's not the first time that's happened in the game. What I did love about this game, Sam Merrill, I thought he was huge in returning this game back to a manageable margin. He had a really big second quarter to me, or third quarter to me. And he's been shooting a lot better as of late, which is good news. You want Sam Merrill to shoot better. He was 3 of 5 from 3 and 3 of 5 from the floor. Gave you 12 points off the bench like that. I loved how Donovan and Darius showed up in this game, particularly in the fourth quarter, because, look, both these guys had rough starts. Well, Donovan did not have a rough start. Darius had a bit of a rough start, but he kind of shorted up at the end of the game here. Ended this game with, 25 and 6. Donovan had 31, 10, and 6. So Donovan got 10 rebounds tonight, 6 assists. So add one more to that rant about Evan Mobley and George Niang getting out-rebounded single-handedly by Donovan Mitchell. Just can't happen. Absolutely can't happen with that lineup. All of this to say, look, the Cavs had a bad night shooting from 3. They only shot 28%. They had a bad night shooting from the field. They only shot 39%. But I'm kind of tired of saying that, right? Because this is not the first big game they've had where they've lost because of that. This is not the second big game they've had where they've lost because of that. This is the third one. So I'm kind of tired of saying, oh, well, they just didn't shoot well. Why is it that we're having these bad shooting nights on these games? Like, it feels like more than a coincidence at this point. So something's got to be solved there. And really would love for one game this year when we have a big-time opponent that all 4 of the core 4 show up, right? We've had 3 of the 4 show up in these big games most of the time, but it's either Donovan Mitchell gets you 7 points versus Oklahoma City, or, Evan Mobley's the one dropping 7. Like, we got to have all 4 of the core 4 show up in games like this, because you're not going to get out the Eastern Conference Finals if you can't have consistent times where your four best players show up for you in the big time moments, right? That's what happened with Boston today. Their four best players showed up in a big way, right? Jason Tatum got you 22. Kristaps got you 19. Derek White got you 20. Jaylen Brown got you 16. They got what they needed from their best players in their starting lineup, and it didn't end up mattering. And Drew Holiday didn't really score anything, but he played really good defense. And he rebounded the ball well, too, for a guard. So you got what you needed there from your core players. The Cavs got what they needed from three of their core players. These are things that are starting to show up more than I can hand wave at, right? Like, this is more than just a coincidence at this point. These are things that they need to solve. And now that we're heading away from the All-Star, into the All-Star break and into the last half of the basketball season, you expect some movement here on these things, right? Some of these things need to be changed with personnel decisions. Some of these things need to be changed with individual choices to just play better basketball. And some of these things are coaching adjustments that need to be made. But the Cavs are close. They can be a championship caliber team. They can win an NBA Finals this year. The problem is that they have these little nagging issues that pop up against elite teams. I expect that. This is the Cavs' first year in the realm of elite team, right? This is the first time the Cavs have truly competed for the 1 seed. So I expect there to be some growing pains getting in here, right? And this is part of it. But doesn't mean that the sense of urgency to solve these problems goes anywhere. That's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.